Ever wonder what really happens to your cat's body when they eat wet food every single day? Most cat parents think it's just a fancy treat or a tastier meal. But what's going on under the surface is something most people completely miss. It changes how their organs function, how they feel, and even how they act around you. What starts happening might completely change the way you feed your cat forever. Here's what kicks in from day one. Number 1. Their body finally gets the hydration it's been craving. Have you ever wondered why your cat completely ignores their water bowl? It's not laziness, and they aren't just being picky. It's pure biology. Cats evolved as desert hunters. Their ancestors got almost all of their hydration directly from the prey they caught. Because of this, their natural thirst drive is incredibly low. Their bodies were simply never designed to drink water on the side. But here's the problem. Most house cats eat dry kibble, which contains a tiny 10% moisture. Compare that to wet food, which sits between 75% and 80%. That is almost the exact moisture content of a mouse or a small bird. When you switch to daily wet food, things shift fast. Their hydration levels skyrocket. Their kidneys no longer have to work overtime to filter highly concentrated waste. Their urine becomes more diluted, which drastically lowers the risk of crystals and urinary blockages, one of the most common and dangerous emergencies in cats, especially males. In fact, a study in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery confirmed that cats on wet food produce more urine volume with lower concentration, exactly what a healthy urinary tract needs. Your cat's body finally stops running on empty, and honestly, this one change is what makes everything else on this list possible. But stay with me until the last point, because there's a hidden side to wet food that can quietly backfire if you're not paying attention. Number 2. Their weight shifts in a way you probably wouldn't expect. Why are so many indoor cats a little chunky, even when their owners aren't actively overfeeding them? It's not because cats are inherently lazy. It's because of what's in the bowl. Dry kibble is packed with carbohydrates. Some brands contain 40% or more. Cats are obligate carnivores. They have absolutely zero biological need for carbs. Because their bodies aren't built to burn carbs for energy, most of it goes straight to fat storage. It's not a willpower problem for your cat. It's a food design problem. When you switch to wet food, the equation flips. Wet food is naturally higher in protein, packed with moisture, and incredibly low in carbs. This simple combination lets your cat feel completely full on fewer calories, without you having to stress over measuring every single gram. Research from the Waltham Center for Pet Nutrition showed that cats on wet diets easily maintain a leaner body compared to those on dry diets, even when they're allowed to eat freely. High protein triggers a true satiety response in their brain. Basically, they actually feel satisfied instead of constantly hunting for their next snack. If your cat has been carrying extra weight, the secret might not be how much you're feeding them, but what you're feeding them. Quick favor. If this is changing the way you think about feeding your cat, take 1 second to hit like and subscribe. It helps us get this information to more cat parents who want the absolute best for their pets, not just what's convenient. Number 3. Their coat tells the truth before anything else does. Ever notice how some cats have ultra-soft, glossy fur that almost looks unreal, while others feel dry, rough, and flaky no matter how much you brush them? What if that has almost nothing to do with grooming? Your cat's coat is the most honest indicator of what's happening inside their body. When their nutrition is off, the fur is the first thing to show it. Dull coats, massive shedding, and cat dandruff aren't just cosmetic issues. They're warning signals. Wet food is naturally loaded with the animal-based proteins and essential fats that skin and fur desperately need. dry kibble, even the really expensive stuff, goes through intense heat processing that destroys a lot of those delicate nutrients before they ever reach your cat's stomach. When you make the switch to daily wet food, you'll likely notice a difference within just a few weeks. The fur gets softer, the shedding slows way down, and that greasy or dusty texture simply vanishes. Research in the Journal of Nutritional Science proves that high-protein, high-moisture diets drastically improve coat quality. Their body stops rationing nutrients just to survive and starts putting them where they belong. Put down the expensive shampoos and supplements. The cure for a bad coat is probably sitting right there in the wet food aisle. Number 4. Their behavior around food completely transforms. Does your cat scream the second you step into the kitchen? Do they inhale their food like someone's about to steal it? We usually laugh and just blame their greedy personality. But what if your cat isn't actually greedy? What if they're just never actually satisfied? Cats that eat dry food often develop frantic, anxious eating habits. Kibble digests rapidly and lacks the moisture needed to stretch the stomach and send a fullness signal to the brain. A few hours later, they feel completely empty again. So, they beg. They pace. They wake you up at 4 a.m. because their body is literally telling them something is missing. Wet food breaks this miserable cycle. The heavy protein triggers a real hormonal fullness response, and the heavy moisture physically stretches the stomach just enough to tell the brain, "I'm done." The Journal of Veterinary Behavior confirmed this, showing that cats on high-protein diets showed far less food-seeking behavior and frustration between meals. Your cat eats, feels deeply satisfied, and calmly walks away. Now, if you have a cat with a stressful past, they might still speed eat out of habit. In that case, pairing wet food with a lick mat or a puzzle feeder works wonders. It slows them down and taps into their natural foraging instincts. Once you combine wet food with a slower eating pace, the desperation fades, and mealtime finally goes from chaotic to quiet. Number 5. The one major risk most owners never see coming. If wet food is basically a superfood, what's the catch? This is the danger I mentioned earlier, the one that can quietly backfire. Most owners pop open a can, scoop it into a bowl, and walk away. That makes sense for kibble, because kibble can sit out all day. Wet food absolutely cannot. The second it hits room temperature, bacteria start multiplying rapidly. Depending on how warm your house is, that window of safety can close in as little as 1 to 2 hours. Cats that like to graze and come back for a few bites later are at high risk. The food might look the same, and it might even smell fine to you, but bacterial growth is completely invisible. The golden rule is simple. Never leave wet food out for more than 2 hours. If it's still in the bowl after that, throw it away. Any leftovers in the can need to be sealed and refrigerated immediately and used up within 48 hours. Oh, and one last pro tip. Don't serve it ice-cold straight from the fridge. Cats are biologically hardwired to prefer food that is close to body temperature because it mimics freshly caught prey. Just add a splash of warm water or microwave it for literally 2 seconds to bring out the aroma. None of this is a reason to avoid wet food. Everything we just covered still stands. But the line between wet food, healing your cat, and quietly making them sick comes down to how you handle it after you open the can. Get that part right, and you are giving your cat exactly what nature designed them to eat.